see a lot of people coming up to the door here, taking one glance inside, thinking better of it.
Yeah. 2-minute takers. I did minutes right out of this yesterday. I consider myself done.
Yeah, we don't have a large pool of candidates for minute taker here at the moment. Yeah. Who needs minutes anymore? I mean, we've got a full audio transcript of this. Like Whisper, .ai would get us a perfectly serviceable transcript with only a modicum of hallucinations, in which we pledge to do a variety of things that we probably don't want to do.
It really is huge.
Yeah.
Asking it to summarize might not be the best move.
I mean, the summarization is frankly better than the voice rec in my experience working with these. I work with these audio tools a lot, and like it's kind of amazing what the hallucinations hear into various statements. All right, we are getting close to commencing this meeting, as it is now 9:31. However, one of the key people has wandered out of the room momentarily, and we are hoping that he will return. And when he does, at that time, we will commence. I'm also hoping to see some people logged in remotely, including a gentleman by the name of Elliot Lear. It'd be good to have him here. Yeah, I must, he must be concerned about the traffic driving down here and decided to stay home. I drove here actually from France, so not that far. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's what? He's Switzerland? Elliot is? Yeah. So it's not that much farther. I hadn't done the northern route of the Pyrenees before. When you go to Biarritz and then around to San Sebastian and then like take that, and so it's beautiful, beautiful country there. So. Okay, we really do need Lars back, so we will be starting momentarily. I promise. I mean, I guess I could just do administrivia and we can play our game of can we find a note taker. All right, so welcome everyone on behalf of Lisa, who you see up on the screen, and myself to this IETF 123 meeting of the Moderation Procedures Working Group MODPOD. Thanks for being here. In the room here, the few, the devout are present. This is not exactly throngs here, but who knows? We could have latecomers appear at any moment. Now, up on the screen here is something that's called a note well. You may have seen this if you have attended any other IETF activity this week, or indeed at any IETF in the past as far as I can remember. But please do understand and abide by the various things that one should note well and note really well, as this slide here suggests. If you're unfamiliar with just kind of the basics of working through this, if you're seeing these slides somehow and are not logged into the MeetEcho tool, not sure how many people that would be the case for. These are some tips for working with MeetEcho and various resources that can support you in that endeavor. We have a very simple agenda today, which is good. We're making an incredible amount of progress on the list. I think Lisa and I both have been really heartened to see the direction that these conversations have taken. But before we dig into it, anybody here feel like taking notes for this meeting? Of the very few people we have in this room, it would be great to have a note taker. In parallel, I'll ask if anyone would like to bash the agenda or talk about any documents other than the one that we plan to dig into here today. You can take a few notes. Thanks so much. Notes are being taken. I still do not see Mr. Lear in the list. Am I just missing him here? Okay. Well, hopefully he'll be able to join in because he has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the work, resolving those PRs in GitHub, and he deserves to be here to see the moment of glory when we all agree, right here, that we can go forward with this. All yes. Hey, come on. There are 6. There are 6. Yes, yes. Okay, well, with that, I think our plan here, as we see on the agenda, is to talk about this for a bit. Let's take 15 minutes at the end and ask ourselves if we think we're on the right track here, and if maybe something like a working group last call could be in our immediate future. But with that, Lars, would you like to come up, and I will somehow figure out how to switch these slides out.
Good morning. Elliot is, I guess, remotely participating.
I'm not. I do not. I don't.
He's
see
not there
him.
yet. Okay. Well, if somebody sees him appear, let me know, and I will tell him he should flick his camera on so that he can raise his hand when he wants to say something, so I know to stop babbling.
Okay, let me get the new slides up here. Share slides.
Yeah, these are the most boring slides ever, which is a good sign in this particular case. Oh, I have control even. Excellent. Right, good morning. So I'm Lars Eggert. Elliot Lear is not yet remotely available, but he's my co-editor for this working group document that we believe is finishing, or at least in our opinion. Should something happen when I click?
It should.
It doesn't.
Okay, I can try to advance manually.
All right, thank you. So the TLDR here is we did a bunch of revisions between Bangkok and now. Basically, whenever we thought that we had a stable thing for the working group to look at, we pushed one. I'm going to briefly go through the changes that were made during that time. We have 0 open PRs at the moment, and we also have 0 content-related issues. We have like 2 tracking/tooling issues that we may or may not need to do anything about, depending on whether we're ready for working group last call or not. So as far as the editors know, we are done. This is the optimistic statement here. And the question at the end will be, John already said this, we believe as editors, we might be ready for working group last call, but what do you believe? Next. So next few slides just
working, by the way.
Okay, excellent. So this just goes very briefly through what we changed, right? So in 04, we just basically added, there was a discussion whether giving some examples of what disruptive behavior looks like would be useful. I was personally a bit skeptical because we had that in the charter for the IETF discussion list, and it only caused people to argue that what they did wasn't explicitly listed in the examples, and therefore it wasn't covered, and it was clear that it were just examples. Anyway, we decided we put it into an appendix that's non-normative, and so the people who find it helpful have it. And by shoving it at the end and labeling it very aggressively as non-normative, maybe it alleviates the confusion among those that think that only things that are on this list are disruptive. In 04, we dropped BCP 14 language, so that the document no longer uses capital verbs, and we also obviously stopped the references. That doesn't mean that what this document says isn't normative. It just means that the consensus of the working group was that BCP 14 language in process documents is maybe sort of confusing and we shouldn't use it, and so we don't.
So just real quick, is anybody watching this in the video? Have we lost all the video? Because my display suggests you don't have a speaker camera anymore. Speaker camera working for people who are there on the web? Okay, good.
All right.
Yeah, it's just lost on my display. Then.
You can just look this way. Did Elliot show up in the meantime, by the way?
I've not seen him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. In 05, so there was a long-standing issue or a long-standing discussion about how the moderator team intersects with moderation that the chairs are tasked to do already, specifically the chairs of IETF working groups. And we did an attempt to clarify that. I'm going to fast forward. There's going to be a final attempt a few revisions later that actually fixes it, but this was the first one that landed in this one. In 07, I should have really labeled this differently, not since 06. I just said in 07, this is what we did. We made some sweeping changes to normalize and say that this sort of applies to all fora, and we specifically tried to use the term or define the term forum to mean all public IETF participation channels. And there was some changes related to obsoleting RFC 3934. And I don't know what explicit admin responsibility means. Sorry, but you can look at the pull request and that will make it clear what was meant. And finally, so Pete Resnick made a proposal on the working group list that we found compelling, and I guess you did too as participants, and we rolled that in and we wordsmithed it a little bit. And that is sort of the final approach to how the moderator team and chairs intersect. And yesterday, when I asked the chairs whether it would be helpful to get a draft submitted for discussion here in 08, I did an editorial pass and I fixed a bunch of wording things, none of which I consider to be content related. It was like terminology, moving some sentences around, adding like line spaces and stuff like that. And with that, I think we're done. So the main changes, just to sort of wrap it up, is basically a shift in talking about the moderator team and what it does to talking about the moderation policy for the IETF, of which this team is a part, but also the chairs are an integral part, and more clearly defining specifically what the role of the team, the chairs, the area directors, and the ISG is. And I think the summary is that we landed on that the chairs are really tasked to continue to moderate their working groups and all the public participation channels that the working group uses. The moderator team may also moderate if they believe the chairs are AWOL, i.e. they're not doing anything visible, in order to prevent the situation from happening where the chairs have done something and the moderator team is unaware. We task the chairs with informing the moderator team when they're doing moderation actions, which might, for example, Stephen's example from the list yesterday, include sending an off-list nudge to say, hey, maybe cool it a little bit. It would be helpful for the moderator team to know that that happened so that they don't feel the need to step in and say, chairs didn't do anything, let's do something. But I think at least sort of, I haven't looked at the list this morning, I think some of us at least landed on maybe we don't need to over-define handling of these edge cases and instead rely on everybody here trying to do the right thing and there being an appeals process for when things really should go wrong, which we all hope they don't. And I think that's my last slide. Yes, it is. Questions, Ted?
So the way you just described the process and what the document actually says don't seem to be the same to me.
Okay. What the document says is correct. What I said is then wrong. So how do I misspoke? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So the thing that I'm slightly uncomfortable with in the document is that the document, to my reading, and I'm not saying my reading is correct, but to my reading, the document says that the moderators must attempt to contact the working group chairs and wait for some indeterminate period of time before the working group chairs respond, which is not what you said.
Correct.
Okay.
So I simplified it and maybe I oversimplified it. So yes, so the moderator team, before they take action when they believe that the chairs haven't done something, should reconfirm with the chair. So the chairs should inform the moderator team, and the moderator team, if that information hasn't happened or the chairs haven't done anything, they should reconfirm with the chairs first, what is the state here? And if they don't hear from the chairs and they haven't seen anything public, should they, after some time that is TBD, moderate?
Right. And I think, just my personal opinion on this, the time is usually probably not that urgent, but sometimes it is.
Yeah.
And I think that is not currently captured in the text. And I don't know how to capture that, but I feel like right now, if I were to read that text as a moderator and think about what I'm allowed to do, I would assume that I'm not allowed to intervene immediately even in situations where that would be required.
Okay, so I think that would be the wrong reading, and maybe we can change words to make it clear, because I think there's the moderator team, I think, should feel empowered in cases where they believe it's urgent that something be done and they can't, either they don't have information from the chairs or the chairs are not responsive.
Right.
They should do something, and then if there's a disagreement between the chairs and the moderator team about what happened, we can unroll it.
Yeah, I think we have that part.
that part we have. So maybe if you have a sentence or two that you can do a PR for, stick it in an email, that would be helpful.
Okay, thanks.
But I'm glad that's sort of the level of things that get raised. And now Pete goes to the mic.
Yeah, and the overall is that I'm happy with where we are. And I think I have the same reaction to Ted's concern that I did to Stephen's concern on the list, which is these sort of fall into the edgy edge cases. I mean, Stephen's example was, okay, the chair does something moderation wise, doesn't, for whatever reason, accidental or otherwise, mention it to the mod team, and then goes on holiday.
Mm.
And this starts to sound like an old George Carlin joke about, you know, I'm on a ship at sea, and, you know, the person goes into a coma, and then we've crossed the international date line, and okay, these things will happen. These are edge cases. And I kind of feel the same way about TEDS, which is the number of times where the timing is so wildly important that the moderator sends a message to the chair and it doesn't come back in an hour or a half hour or whatever the immediacy requires, and then makes the decision and what that timing should be. I'm not that worried about it. I understand those cases do exist, but I think they're relatively rare when the intervention has to happen that quickly. So I'm willing to leave it in the noise. And if, you know, Ted or Stephen can propose some text that covers edge cases better, peachy, but I'm afraid we're going to start to dig ourselves a hole.
So Ted Lemon again. I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but there are certain sorts of behaviors that when they occur must be stopped immediately. That would include, let's say, sexual harassment, which we've seen on mailing lists. That should be stopped immediately. There should be no waiting period. There should be no consultant with the chairs. That should be stopped immediately. This is the situation I'm talking about here. And it is an edge case. It doesn't happen very often. When it does happen, we should do the right thing immediately. That's my concern.
Pete again. I'll say that in a case of sexual harassment or any kind of harassment, the levers that need to be pulled start to look a little different, because that's the point where I would actually want the mod team to say, whoa, 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 whoa. We can call this out and say, that looks like harassment, cut it out now, but they should also be pulling the ombuds team lever and get things rolling. That's a serious matter. And, you know, I think if that needs to be called out more specifically in this document, that's fine. But that's one where I also don't want either a chair or a mod team to go it alone. They need to yelp and say, whoa, stop, that's bad, but then start to get other people involved in that. Whether it's, you know, IASG folks or the ombuds team or everybody.
Or the IETF LLC.
Or the IETF LLC, because the police need to be called or whatever.
Right.
I mean, yes, if we want to make that explicit, that's fine. But that's not a normal mod team edge case as far as I'm concerned.
So do we believe that words need to change in a document to address any of this? I guess it's mostly a question for Ted. You nodding, okay. If you wouldn't mind sort of proposing an edit or enthusiastic thumbs up, thank you. and we can discuss it. That'd be helpful. Anything else? There's still, no, it is Ted and Pete.
Yeah, who have not taken themselves out of queue, as one does in these cases.
Well, or the chair is proactively.
Okay,
Anyway,
yes, I can do that.
any other discussion about this document, which I guess then brings me to passing it on to John and Lisa about the question whether this is ready to be last called or not.
Yeah, I mean, so we've heard from some people in the room here. We do have some people online. I don't know if anyone online has anything they want to add to the conversation thus far. You know, I think what I've seen on the list, and Lisa, obviously, feel free to chime in on this. You know, I think we've seen this direction come to a set of more narrow PRs that seem to have widespread support. Obviously, in a case like this, there's always going to be people who are a bit in the rough. I've seen people who have self-identified, recognizing that they are going to be in the rough of the decision here. And so my intuition, at least, would be that we are probably, we could say delta a PR that you are currently drafting, Ted, as we sit here. Like delta that, like I think we might be ready to go forward with that. Does anybody disagree with that online in the chat?
Do you want to do a poll?
We could do a poll. You know, these tools are so fancy. I forget we even have these polls.
I don't know how many people we have online, but in the room it's a pretty small number.
Yeah. Are we ready for working group last call on the MODPOD processes document? A vote should be available.
You can +1 me on the yes because I'm logged in on my laptop, but not on my phone, so I can't click on the thing. But at the moment, I'm voting 0 because I'm not logged in on my phone. There's 100% yes. Oh no. Oh, so close. I jinxed it. I jinxed it. 90% yes.
All right, so we may have 4 more no opinions here. Going once, going twice. All right. So what I did not see there are any no's. So I think insofar as we have our coalition of the willing here, that is going to look at the overall situation. Yes, Chris, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I read through the draft this morning, and yes, in general, I'm very happy with it. The one thing I noted that was unclear, which we don't need to wait for the working group last call for, but it's just the part where it says all moderation actions that restrict posting rights shall be periodically reported to the ISG and immediately to those against whom the actions take effect. And I read that and I thought, what's an action that restricts posting rights? So is putting someone in in PrOceDures, in putting them into hold for moderation state, so any new emails that come in go into that hold state, is that an action that restricts posting rights?
I mean, I'd say things milder than that would qualify. Yeah.
Yeah. So we should elaborate that a little more, I think, but that's all I noted.
So maybe something like anything that prevents messages from reaching the forum immediately or without review or something like that. So anything that restricts messages from directly being visible in the forum would be a posting, right? Okay. Do you feel like sending us a PR or an email suggestion with a wording change? You can say no.
Yes. No, I don't immediately have an idea of what the wording, but I could spend a couple of minutes thinking about what I think would work there. I mean, one thing I'm thinking is it would be helpful for the moderation team to, well, I don't know. It might be helpful if the moderation team has the discretion to place someone in hold for moderation without telling them immediately. I don't know whether that latitude is something we need to.
Okay.
That would have to be a discussion in the group, I think. Yeah. There are some hard edges I can imagine on that. Yeah.
So this is Pete. I've been thinking about, and I had a conversation in a different context outside of IETF about this, about having in mind a distinction between policy and procedures. And the policy should be pretty broad. And my gut is that the moderation team should be coming up with not just guidelines for what stays in, what goes out, but also these kinds of questions of when they, what kinds of actions they notify the IASG or they notify the person, make that list, the community is going to be looking at that list anyway and doing review of that list and can say, whoa, guys, you need to do it even in these cases. And I think that's okay. There's going to be community review. This should set sort of the broad brushstrokes and leave it to the mod team to come up with the really detailed stuff.
Yeah.
And so if Chris is comfortable with, you all write down what you think the appropriate point is to let the person know what the constraints on that. Maybe there's a delay because we've thrown the person into moderation, but for whatever reason, we haven't told them immediately, or we haven't told the ISG. I think that's okay for you all to write down the details of. We've got the broad brushstroke in this document, which is you got to tell the ISG at some point if you've blocked posting.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, right? I mean, and there's going to be a discussion, and I think the ISG is tasked with creating a list for the discussion of the moderation procedures. In order to sort of nitpick what Chris suggested, so I think if you have this sort of silent moderation bucket, it is visible to persons that get thrown in there because their posts are going to be delayed for some lists while not others. So in effect, you're exposing that has happened, and so you might as well be transparent and tell them, look, we put you in this for this reason, and we might take you out.
Yeah, so totally different topic. I forgot to mention this earlier. In the appendix, it feels like it could use a little bit more text to just absolutely exclude lawyering based on the appendix, the one that lists the examples. Yeah, and I can send you some text that
Awesome.
you might or might not like.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot be overstating this because people immediately go like, for the IETF list, right? Every single time people were like, but it's not, I didn't send like a CFP or when I did send a CFP, but ISOC is co-sponsoring it and doesn't this. So this is really sort of, yes. But okay, we're going to set a CPR from Ted on that. Thank you.
Okay. So if we are going to wait for a few last notes from Ted before we do working group last call, when Ted, what we imagine we could see such things.
So I would suggest that pull requests are part of the working group last call process, and you don't need to
Fair
wait.
enough. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah. And I'm going to be on vacation next week. So unless Elliot hits buttons in GitHub, which he might well do.
Well, look at this. Elliot is now in the chat. Elliot,
Hey.
long awaited.
Sorry
Elliot,
about that.
Over. It's all over now, man. You missed it. We like totally solved everything. And
Okay, I'll leave.
But is there anything, Elliot, you want to say about all of this? I don't know when you joined and how much of this you caught. It seems
Actually,
like
I just joined. So
yeah, so we are imminently entering working group last call for the document is what you are walking into. So I hope you're walking into something good.
yeah, Lars, if there are any buttons you need pushed, just let me know and I'll push them.
You're very soft.
Yeah, you're a little, we can't quite hear you.
I said, if there are any buttons to be pushed, I'll be happy to push them.
Okay.
Okay. So I would, so it's just because I'm out next week, maybe we can do like an extra week working group last call, or like, there's no rush, right? Because it gives me a little bit more time to finish wrapping up the editing, and Elliot is nodding as well.
We could also just wait a week and then start working.
We can also do
call.
that.
Why don't we do that? And then we can get these PRs in and like have this all looking so beautiful. It will be an unimpeachable document by the time the last call comes about.
You can impeach documents in the
yes. Well, I can always appeal them.
Okay.
As far as I know, we have no other business. Is there any other business before this August body, or are we on our way out? Lisa?
I'm good, and just thanks to the editors and thanks to everybody who's providing these comments.
And thanks, chairs.
Thank you. All right. I believe at 9:59 we can now conclude this meeting. If there are no other comments, or very exciting. Look at this. Look at what we have done here. People think we can't do these kinds of things. We have done these things. Mic drop. Thank you for coming. Yeah, we did. All right, thank you. We're done. Bye, Lisa. Get some sleep. Yeah.
No, I'm in the same position. Don't be embarrassed. Made a double breakfast. Yeah. It doesn't. And then you're requesting that your fork goes back.
Anyway, now you start editing. And then at the end, you say commit changes. Just make it